Good afternoon. How you guys doing? Thank you so much for coming today. I've been looking forward to this for a really long time, and I'm glad I get to show you the fruits of my labors over some truly terrible puns and jokes for the last year and a half. This is a project that's supposed to make people feel welcomed, and I'm really looking forward to introducing it to everybody in here. We good on sound? Good on everything? Sounds awesome. All right, hello. I'm Tarah, and this is my project, the Nerdlist, and we're going to give this a shot today, see how you feel about it. So, let me do a little bit of introducing myself. I am Tarah, and I want to find out if you know who I am and who you folks are in the room. I'm currently a cybersecurity policy fellow at New America, so I do policy things and I do Infosec things at the same time. And a lot of what I do is figure out how to talk to people about information security, and a lot of mentoring in Infosec to find out how I can welcome people. I've been a security researcher for quite a while. I'm a semi-pro poker player, and yeah, I write stuff angrily on the internet like everybody else in this room, right? Okay. So let's talk about the project, why we're here, and what's going on. So as nerds, how many of us love our inside jokes, right? Exactly, there we go. This one is a little bit too real. I mean, very uncool in high school human, right? Just always wanted to be part of those inside jokes. And now in this room, we're part of so many inside jokes. It's amazing and wonderful, and I love to see it. We love our inside jokes. So about the name, the Nerdlist. April 22nd of last year, 2018, I think I was binging like season 6 or season 5 of a show called The Blacklist. And so why did I sort of mash these two things up together? Well, how many of you in this room have seen the show The Blacklist before? No James Spader? Oh good, this is awesome. Like 40%, 50% of the people in the room are familiar with this show. You've heard about it, you know what we're talking about. I'm super glad to hear this. So there's a lot of shows that are about hackers, but they don't say they're about hackers, right? There's a lot of shows out there that have that hacker ethos, right? Where you know that that's what's happening. They just don't name it that way because, you know, this is cool, and, you know, we struggle to be cool sometimes in this field. But this is about the concept of the hacker ethos, the investigation, the never letting go of a problem until we find the answer to it, right? Still, so many shows out there that are about hackers, but we don't really talk about it, right? I mean, who knows this one right here? It's a wonderful mashup of biohacking, of hacking together. Orphan Black was an incredible example of the hacker ethos. And I certainly know that people in this room are going to love them some Green Arrow, some DC Universe. I mean, Marvel's kind of gone off the edge at this point, right? Are we all agreed at that point? Like, what the hell was Infinity War? Okay. And there's also a lot of shows that say they're about hackers, but they're sort of not, really. Yes, it's pretty brutal. Yes, exactly. There's a season 3 of this. So, you know, for those in the room who are wondering about the shows that I just put up there, maybe don't recognize all the names or all of the shows that I just described, Veronica Mars, Jessica Jones, Orphan Black, Felicity Smoke, and Green Arrow. I mean, because they don't maybe seem to be relevant, or you didn't make time to pay attention. And so I'm telling a lot of jokes that maybe are about a gender and a culture that seem a little bit irrelevant to you. I wonder what it would be like to watch a talk about hacking that's filled with cultural references and people of a different gender than me that I really don't find related to me, but I really have to still find meaning in it. I'm just saying, it's a pretty common experience for a lot of women in this room, right? So there's that. So I just really wonder what that would be like, right? And the answer is I found a way to find meaning in something that inspires me and is interesting to me, right? I found, and I do find, and this is a view shared by at least many of the women that I know in information security, that the Blacklist right now is the most kind of comprehensive hacking show on television, right? It just flat out is. The tech is not entirely ridiculous, but I mean, to be fair, Mr. Robot's tech is the only one that really got it right, and that's because like Cyberjunkie and Dark Tangent are the ones doing the advising on it. It can't help but be pretty good, right? So to be accurate, that's about where we find the technology in the blacklist. And also James Spader. I mean, it's entirely possible, though, that I have a type, which is all I can really say about that. Hi, baby. This is my husband in the front row, just in case you were wondering. So yeah, I mean, James Spader was kind of a snack even when Buffy was on the air, right? Who remembers Welcome to the Hellmouth? Buffy the Vampire Slayer. See, every woman in the room, I love it right now. Okay, this is why we use this as a cultural touchstone. And one of the things, I also want to super give a shout out to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. How many of you know that Willow Rosenberg, the first lesbian hacker on TV, was the first also to verbify Google, as in I Googled it. It's the first time anybody ever said this on television before. It's super amazing. So yeah, like I find inspiration in this show because the jokes, the discovery, the techniques in the show, as well as the relationships, are constantly in flux. They're deepening all the time. It's very Hacks, right? So it's honestly a whole show that is a masterclass in identity and access management. So, but here's the thing, I'm a little bit less, I find myself less personally relating to kind of the hot woman in the background holding the gun, running around kicking doors in all the time. Like, I married that person. I'm a little bit more the mastermind in the situation. So, that's where I found myself. And I want to also, by the way, I'm not the greatest visual artist on earth. Thank you so much to Deviant Olaf, my wonderful husband, for doing a killer Photoshop job, right? It's completely amazing. By the way, an important note, we're dressed in each other's clothes here. I'm wearing his grace. The clothes are not Photoshopped. I'm wearing his vest and stuff, and that's my leather jacket he's sporting, holding that pistol. So I did have this idea that just started cracking me up one day when I was watching this show. I was practicing, I think, credential stuffing on like Hack the Box or something like that. Maybe like, PWK Labs or something. So, and I'm credential stuffing and cracking boxes, and then I started cracking up because I started thinking about a way to put these two things together in a really fun way. And yes, I laugh at my own jokes, like nobody else is going to. So I really enjoyed the concept of mashing these two things up together. And so this has been a world that I've really enjoyed living in and exploring. So I know. So let's move on to the second point here, right? I'm talking a little too much on this one because I'm such a huge fan of this show. So let's talk about the project itself and where it came from. How did it get put together? And what's happening with it? So the Nerdlist project is a cracking list, right? It's a cracking list that has all of the nerd passwords that we've seen used again and again on television shows, in comic books, anything we've used as jokes in memes on the internet, Hunter 2, anything that you might imagine out there. Maybe anyone remember Zion 0101? All of the passwords that you've seen happen in terrible movies as well, cough, swordfish, cough, are on this list. And why? Because we think we're so smart. We think that we're going to use a joke password that we remember from our culture, watching things on the internet and watching old movies, and then we use those passwords because we think nobody else is going to do it. I mean, anecdotally, this is what happens. Don't tell me you all haven't used a variation on some kind of joke password before, right? Like, for like 2 years, I think, when I first had an email in 1998, maybe, my password was Joshua, right? Because why wouldn't your password be Joshua? And then I was like, wait a minute, that's my password. Oh. And then I started learning, right? Because, when you start this stuff out, this might be something that you do reflexively and you don't think about it. Humans are predictable. We do the same thing again and again. That's why there is a list of the top 1,000 most used passwords, because parallel thinking is a thing, right? So, like, what are the other cracking lists that are out there? You got 10 million combos. There's RockYou.txt, CrackStation, Yandex. Who's got other password cracking lists that they love to use? Anybody in here? Throw them out. What do you got? Any names that you can think of? What's that? Dan Meisler? Cool. Any other ones you got out there? Exactly. All these password lists that we use. I mean, wait a minute. On a meta... I mean, they're kind of all up there, right? RockYou.txt, of course, was a leak of, 18.5 million passwords several years ago that just demonstrated the reuse and common used passwords in a gaming system. So why would I do this? Why would I create a new password cracking list? The answer is that this was supposed to be easy and fun. And easy and fun are sometimes things that we don't let ourselves do to get into information security. There's been a lot of talks happening at this con and around in the community about how we try to get rid of gatekeeping, how we try to welcome people into the community. I'm certainly thinking of Heather Infosec Anon's talk this morning on the nature of education in cybersecurity and how we don't do a good job letting people have an entry-level job in information security. Who's heard the quote before, like on Twitter or wherever, Infosec is not an entry-level job? How many of us have heard that concept? Exactly. I am seeing a lot of nodding heads and a lot of raised hands out there. And that is a shame. It's a shame that we don't let people learn a little bit and feel welcome in this community. We don't do a good job at it because it takes energy, effort, and emotional work. I'm thinking of some of the emotional work being done by people at this conference right now, people putting on contests and welcoming people. Jake Williams is doing a resume clinic and an interview clinic right over there for free, just to help people out and get them in to the community, right? This is a wonderful way to help and assist people, and it's a bit of my way to mentor new people in InfoSec and in technology altogether. So, I mean, I talk to policymakers a lot, and one of the things that they ask me about is, should I be scared of hackers getting into my phone? I've got my accounts out there, I've got passwords that have been breached, and one of the things I try to explain to them is we barely think of credential stuffing as hacking anymore, right? Like, this is just re-entering different passwords into a field and seeing what happens. We're barely at the level of needing to think about it. It's been so automated at this point that we don't have to worry about whether or not we've tried that. It's a basic level technique. But it's a basic level technique, and it's one that we should be starting to teach new people in the industry. So the concept of this forum is so basic. I use it as an example to set a baseline for policymakers, for business people, for strategists, on what they should just be expecting that people are gonna do at this point. So do we have that sort of baseline understanding of information security and how we're teaching people? I don't think we do yet. I don't think we're good at giving people an easy on-ramp into InfoSec and welcoming them to the notion that you should be publicly contributing knowledge. People are scared to do that. So I wanted to do this, and please feel free to take a look at this and take a look at the current contributions and issues, and I'll show you some screenshots here in a second. But this is the GitHub repo that I created like a year and a half ago to give people a funny, easy way to make their very first pull request on GitHub to any information security project. And I've been super happy with the results of it. There are some crazy, interesting submissions that people have done. One of the submissions I saw was a series of work done by a gentleman you'll find in here. He's done the biggest commit so far with, I think, over 35 different Android gesture unlock codes with the patterns and the pictures for them. Do you know what one of the most common ones for nerds is? The gesture unlock for Alohomora. Alohomora in Harry Potter. What Hermione uses to open a door. So this is the kind of way that we think, right? This is anecdotally how we as InfoSec people think about opening things. We want to make a joke out of it. Why? Probably because we're all depressed and tired all the time because this job is never going to end and everyone's going to do the same things again and again. And maintaining joy Like, where is the joy here? And maybe this is my way of like reaching out, seizing that joy, and like tearing open my heart gap and shoving it in there, so that on mornings when I wake up and see that someone's left admin password as defaults on some EC2 bucket someplace, I can be like, but there are jokes. And that makes me happy. And it fills me with joy, right? And dude, I was laughing on the ground for solid 5 minutes at my own joke when I made this annotation up here. You know, like, what are you gonna do? Dag on it, there's no way to tell. Dag on it. The old one. Okay. So, all right. Esoteric, that's fine. So is H.P. Lovecraft. Also an asshole. But the important thing is that he used a lot of single quotes. Okay. This project is really intended to be an on-ramp for people in information security, and I think it's starting to work. In fact, I know it's starting to work because this was Maya Quinn's first public pull request to an Infosec project. She's got like 20 repos and she's a badass high school student in New York. Go hire her or give her an internship or something. She's like that person who comes out of her bachelor's degree and she's already got 5 years of experience and a bachelor's degree for the entry-level job at the age of 22. That's like her. So go hang out with her. And what she did was she contributed keyboard layouts that were different in Germany for some of the most common password layouts. And it was fascinating. Some of the work she did to add Dvorak versions of passwords were fascinating. So you should hang out with her on Twitter. I asked her permission to give you this information. She's at bashingfash on Twitter, BASHINGFASH on Twitter. Definitely talk to this girl because she's amazing and I want her to hire me. Yeah, I like being right. I like being right about this. And people are anecdotally using this. They're using these passwords. And I just absolutely love it. So I was just sure that it was going to work. But the most important thing that I wanted people to understand as they come into information security is the massive culture of gatekeeping we have, where instantly if someone does something simple and easy and funny, like maybe a GitHub repo that's literally nothing but about 600 words in a text file. If anyone says that your contributions aren't good enough, I have a response for that. So that's how I feel about this. I love it. And I want you to feel the same way about this. So the way that I conceive of the Nerdlist is supposed to be a way for us all to tell jokes and have fun and be filled with joy about something that is kind of dumb and easy, but it's the first time sometimes anyone's ever kind of like their heart is thumping when they hit, you know, git add dot, git commit /m, you know, quote, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Everybody's going to make fun of me, end quote, git push origin master. Oh God. Oh God. Right? I've been too scared to add things to major GitHub repos out there. Because I wasn't sure if I was going to be welcomed. I present as femme and kind of high femme at that on Twitter and in public, and as a result, I don't have to guess. I already know, given peer-reviewed research, that my PRs are going to be accepted at about half the rates of someone who presents as masculine, and I figured that having something like this that was open to people specifically for, who don't present as masculine, present as femme or non-gender binary, anything that a person wants to be, they're going to be welcome here. And I have been really happy about that. So the question that we've got from this point on, and remember, this is simple. It's supposed to be simple. I want to get off this stage and see like 5 more PRs from the people in this audience from your phones, right? This is supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be easy. So where do we go from here? Right? Where do we go from here? I won't sing it all. But the concept of being together as nerds, that was what Once More with Feeling was about. That's what the concept of family has been about in the great hacker shows, right? The idea of that family that we belong to. So where do we go from here? I'll tell you where we go from here. 3 different things I need every single person in this room to do. I need people in here to contribute to this project. Do it if you are famous. Do it if you're not famous. Do it if you think it is the dumbest idea on earth. Anecdotally, I will confirm to you that at least 5 of the passwords on the list so far are admin passwords for regional ISPs that have never been changed in decades. They're there, they're real. Some of these passwords we know will work because they've been contributed by people who are probably a little pissed off. I don't know where they came from. I just know that someone said, you know, these work, and we need to be fixing this problem. As you're contributing, as you're thinking about this, especially for the newer people in the room and the people listening, I want you to remember something. My mom is crazy. That's not what I want you to remember. But my mother is a 62-year-old Iron Man. She's a 100% disabled Vietnam vet. And the woman rides 150 miles on a bicycle for fun. I think that's insane. My idea of a swell Saturday morning is yoga and a pumpkin spice latte, and I can be basic and happy and awake at 11 a.m. and not 6 a.m., right? But I once asked Mom how her last Ironman had gone. I think she's qualified for Kona this year. It's pretty awesome. And she said, I had a really great time. I got a chance to talk to one of the greatest cyclists in the world. Like this guy had done Tour de France. He was one of the Kona qualifiers. That's like that's the DEF CON of Ironman. And she said, does it ever, when you're riding up mountains, does it ever hurt less? And the guy said to her, it never hurts less. You just get to the top faster. And maybe that's the best way we start thinking about the iterated process of contributing, of coaching, of cracking, using the tools that we've got at our disposal. So that's the thing I want people to be thinking about, that it's never gonna suck less sometimes to be out on the internet and have people be mean, but there's places you can go that will accept and iterate for better, faster, so you can learn quicker without that fear of being gate-kept, of being kept out, of not being welcomed, right? I am sitting here thinking of Ian Coldwater's talk yesterday. Who saw Ian Coldwater's talk yesterday? Their talk was beyond amazing, brilliant and kind and aware of how hard it is to come from the outside and be even more of an outsider than most of the outsiders in this industry. And that's why it matters for us to do these things together, to contribute, to collaborate in this sense. So we didn't choose this profession because it's easy, but there are parts that are harder than others, and this is how we can get to the top of the mountain easier. Contribute to this project. And here's the thing, I'm gonna give you a place to start. Do you not know what to contribute at all to this project? I'm gonna give you a hint. Here's something that I know isn't on the list yet. What's this, Precious? I'm gonna hear someone shout it out. What's it a hash of? They're all the same word. Password. You start to recognize it after a while, right? The hash of the most used password on Earth, of course, is the MD5, base 64, SHA-1, and ROT13, I swear to God, of password, right? Those are not on the list yet. If I wanted to be a wise ass, that is exactly what I would be using as my password, right? What's the hash of the hash of, okay. So consider doing something like this. Figure out what the jokes are, because what are the people in this room gonna do? We're gonna joke. We're gonna joke constantly. We're gonna be wise asses. It is our job to be wise asses, right? What about this one? Hashcat returns a no password. What if this was literally the password? Would that just freak you out, right? Throw that on there, somebody. So I wanna take a step back for a second. I would literally take a step back, but the microphone's right here, and I've been threatened with bad recording if I step back. So watch. There's the step back. I want to take a step back on why communications in information security matter so much, and why I spend time talking to people about what this industry is like. I am broad in a lot of areas and not deep except for maybe in offensive security research and Linux systems administration, right? We all have a specialty that we go with, but I've spent time figuring out how Infosec works so that I can give good analogies to people. One of the reasons I do this is because it is incredibly hard for people that aren't us to understand what we do for a living. It seems weird, it seems strange, it's non-intuitive, and finding something that they can reach out and hold onto is the best way often that I have to explain what we're doing. The problem, of course, is that every analogy breaks down at a certain point, right? But it turns out that most of the time when I talk to policymakers or people that do this kind of work and don't lay hands on a keyboard at all, the two things I most of the time need to explain to them in a way that makes them feel it in their gut is weakening encryption and single points of failure in infrastructure, right? How have you ever explained a single point of failure in infrastructure? I'm curious about this, and I would love to hear some of this. I swear to God, my next project is going to be like Infosec analogies on GitHub, just with text files of this. Here's how I explained this thing to my boss one time, and it actually worked, right? Actually, that's a really good idea. Okay, somebody tell me to do that. Anyway, so when I explain thanks so much. Yeah, Ian Meyer, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for the wise ass, right? Okay, I love you, man. So when I explain single points of failure, I was actually explaining this to some journalists the other day, and they were like, did she bring bondage equipment to a cyber summit? That's okay. I mean, not really, but what is this? It's a zip tie, right? How many of you have been familiar with this demo before, with the concept of zip ties used for detaining and oppressing crowds in protests? If I'm going to explain a single point of failure, what I often need to do is explain to people that this is scary until you understand its very specific point of weakness, right? No pain, no fear, it's gone, right? Even a Congress critter understands single point of failure when I say that's how you break out of something if you know where it lives, right? One of the other things I often have a really difficult time explaining to people is the nature of encryption bypass, or is encryption weakening, right? Laying some backdoors in encryption, weakening it for law enforcement purposes. And what I have to do is explain to them that as soon as you understand the bypass mechanism, that's not security, it's a suggestion, right? It's that fast. Then I show them how to do it and give them a comb pick, and then they like walk out with this 1,000-yard stare that super freaks them out, and I say, time for whiskey, right? Because this is emotionally satisfying. It's emotionally satisfying. You know, I'm gonna do it over my head now. I'm gonna be like my old guitar teacher and just do this stuff like without even having to look at it like over my head, right? It's that fast. That is intuitive. And it's why we care about how hacking and computers are portrayed online, why we do this communication, why we need to find these analogies, because this someone understands. If you know where the back door in encryption is, it's not security, it's a suggestion. And, you know, it's polite suggestion. I'm not that polite, right? It's there. I'm going to tell people about it, just like I'm going to tell people about the passwords that are on this list that I know, anecdotally, are in use, okay? That's how I explain this to people, and it's why these kinds of analogies matter so much to us. So, we're weird. We're the people that had to go around the rules, that have to figure out how to break into systems. I wake up every day and I get to keep people safe for a living, and this is one of the greatest feelings I could possibly imagine. I love it. I love every moment of it. And part of that is breaking things. So the third element of this, beyond contributing, beyond coaching people and explaining things, beyond collaboration, let's break some shit. All right. But this isn't going to end quite the way you think it's going to end. I'm going to have some presents in here for some people. Depending on how fast you can move. Who remembers this? Sneakers. Too many secrets? Right. I was watching this one night. I was live tweeting it one night. I think Devi and I were still dating, busy live tweeting sneakers, and hanging out and watching this and thinking to myself, what a great way to explain ciphertext to people, just scrambling and unscrambling things. Sneakers did such a wonderful job analogizing what information security was like without actually performing most of the functions of it. For those in the room who think it's complete heresy for me to say this, hackers and sneakers did very much the same thing. They showed what hacking was like without showing hacking, right? I mean, the next time I can touch a contact point on a board and decrypt the FTC, please let me know. That would be swell. Bitcoin. So the nature of unscrambling things like this is what gave me a little bit of an inspiration to give something back to the community. About 3 months ago, I decided to take those tiles that we saw in sneakers and turn them into something. Pure silver Scrabble tiles. These are the challenge coins for cracking something in the wild with the Nerdlist. You can get them today or any time in the future, but this is the prize. I've been spending a lot of time working on this, and I have been so filled with joy. I'm giving you treasure, actual, pure, 0.999 AG silver. They're weird, they're different. These are the little variations that you can see on Scrabble letters. I took my old 1960s Scrabble set. It was great, the old wood letters. These have the grain in them from the letters themselves. The back has a little message. If you can't figure out what you're supposed to do with that message, and you haven't seen sneakers yet. Think about this, right? You have the opportunity, and I would love it, especially for the people in the room who have a lot of experience, if you would find someone who doesn't know as much about Infosec and work with them to try to crack something in the wild, right, with this list. Teach them about it and help them get one of these guys. However, I have to be very, very serious about something right now. And the thing I would like to be very serious about is the rules. Be legal. Please don't do something illegal and then ask me to pay you for it. That would be bad. Do this only with permission or on whatever you have the right to use this on. And harm none, do as you will. What's that? Wiccan concept. Do what you wish, right? Now, if you crack something in the wild and it is private, you do it at your company, it's okay, but verify it with 2 trusted people who will say, yes, this was actually done, actually cracked, because I want to be able to reward you without necessarily needing you to expose someone who has bad security. Better even yet than that is crack something and then tell them how to fix it and then come to me and tell me that you did it so that we can talk about it in public, right? And send your proof to my email address, and I'll provide this again for you a little bit later on. I want to go back to this because I just love this. I sat there for an hour and individually with a ruler, hand lined up, all of these tiles so it would be perfect. I'm fine, it's cool. So yeah, remember the rules. And I want to be very clear on that again with that legal part. Marsha Hoffman can only do so many pro bono CFAA defenses, okay? Don't break the law. If you can figure out what the law is, anyway, the CFA is a whole different situation, but don't break the law. Leave poor Marsha alone. She's got a lot to do. If you want help, create that help for other people. Trade knowledge with someone about how you can learn how to do credential stuffing. It's beyond the scope of this talk, but it's beyond the scope of this talk because it's too easy to bother with right here. Literally, it's a command line, crack thing, add file list, send output, right? So the nature of this should be something that the people, and I'm making light of that, but I didn't know that, right? Credential stuffing sounds all scary and weird and maybe kind of dirty. And so I would love it if the people in this room and everyone would teach people how to do this because it is such an easy on-ramp to figuring out how to do something in information security, right? The Twitter account for this is at Nerdlisting, and I think it follows me and I follow it back. You can tweet there. Try to tweet that so that I can keep it separate. I can retweet and make sure that it becomes an information thread for people. And then it's hashtag the Nerdlist if you want to hashtag other things, like on Instagram or wherever, which, by the way, is where I posted a preview slide of these challenge coins. And for everyone in the room, obviously, after this is all done and our Q&A is done, you can come up and take a look at these. You know, I'll have my security guard standing here and swatting hands. These are nice, really beautiful coins, and I'm really proud of them. I would love it if you would form teams, create information, and teach people about how to do credential stuffing with this list legally. For Red's sake, form teams. Use the GitHub issues page on this repo to talk about things, ask questions, see whether or not you think something's a good inclusion. And here's the thing. To save everyone here from having to gatekeep, I'm the only one that gets to say no to anybody. And I'm probably going to say no not because I think it's a bad idea, but because this is not a duplicate of RockYou. It's not a duplicate of HaveIBeenPwned. It's not a duplicate of Yandex or any of the other major lists. It's intended to be about the community, our jokes that we tell, variations on it, and anecdotally in use admin and leet passwords. Go forth and use them if you wish, right? They may not be used frequently enough to hit frequency lists out there, but they might be used by people who haven't updated a system in 15 years as an old joke, right? This is supposed to be a side sort of project that lets you try something if you've tried everything else and you think you got a wise ass on your hands, right? This industry is going to be around for a while. Cybersecurity is going to grow 60% year over year for the next 10 years at an absolute minimum. We're going to be here for a while, and we're all pretty much going to be employed for a while, right? This isn't going to end. But we can start to make this community a little bit better. What is this? Fractal. What kind of fractal? Anybody know? Mandelbrot fractal. This is a representation of what happens when you start with a simple rule and it starts to grow bigger over time. Everything unique but recognizable is growing from the whole and growing larger and more beautiful over time. This is what our industry is supposed to be like. And I'd love to see us do that. I'd love to see us create that world like the operative in Serenity who just wanted to create a better world, right? That's a good password. I should add that one. It's never going to end, and I know that it's going to take a while, right? For us to figure out how we want to make our industry work, because God knows regulation from outside just makes us mad. So we're the ones who get to decide how this works, how it operates. And I mean, I'm not saying whiskey's the answer, because it's not. The answer is calm, right? And knowing that this too shall pass, capturing that joy. The worst day of your life probably doesn't have a lot to do with work. Neither does the best day. In 2 years, almost anything you do today is going to melt into this larger story of how you treated people with integrity and did your best and learned and contributed, right? I hope so. I'm pretty happy right now. I'm really happy right now. I've been waiting for so long to get to do this, and I'm completely thrilled about it. Yeah. I can't believe I just did an information security talk in full James Spader cosplay. Yes. Life goals. So I'm so honored and thrilled to be here. We're going to do Q&A in just a second, but thank you so very much. I would love to know if anybody's got questions. I will repeat them from up here if you have them. Make sure and shout it out if you can. Does anybody have any questions? I got a hand over here. What values in this project would you like to see adopted more widely by the community to make the community more welcome? I haven't seen anybody say no yet to anything anyone suggested. I haven't seen anyone say, that's stupid. What do you want to do that for? And I will come down like the hammer of Thor on the head of anybody that does that shit. I would love to see more welcoming. Why? Because For God's sake, it's going to be like 12 ASCII characters. It's not going to break your machine if you're running this in a cracker. Come on, right? Just throw it in there. I would love to see that because it's going to be a high-class problem if one day this list gets so big that it has to get curated, right? We're at like 600 words, I think, at this point, maybe less. And it's not going to take that long. It doesn't hurt to add one more. And if you've got a 6-year-old that wants to hammer on the keyboard and say, yay, I contributed to an Infosec project, do it. I want to see that welcoming sense added to the community that way. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that's it. Say yes before you try to say no. You can say no later. We got a lot of computational power at this point. We got EC2 instances. They're free. Well, first hit's free on EC2, right? Anybody else have questions? If you'd like to come up and take a look at the silver Scrabble tiles, which are, as of this moment, there's your Wild West Hackin Fest exclusive on this one. Actual, real life, honest to God, precious metal treasure for doing something cool and helping somebody else in the community and bringing some joy. Come up and take a look at them. If you want to handle them, do not walk away with them if you could possibly be so kind. And it was a genuine pleasure. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.